Hello there everybody and welcome to this thing that I'm doing. So Ventress is back from the dead after dying off screen in the Dark Disciple books, which as we know were originally cancelled Clone Wars episodes. Now Ventress is of course a great character, and sometimes bringing characters back from the dead can work very well, so I wasn't completely against the idea when I saw the trailer. But the thing is, bringing characters back from the dead only works if the writing does it justice, and in the case of Ventress in the Bad Batch, I don't think they're off to a very good start. You see, the midichlorian tests in particular just make no sense. Why didn't Ventress just test Omega's blood like Qui-Gon does with Anakin in The Phantom Menace? It's the established in-universe way to check midichlorian levels, and it's the only way that you'll get a precise reading. And more to the point, why did 2 of the 3 physical tests that she has Omega do have nothing at all to do with Force abilities? These tests are simply to stand on one leg with an apple on your head and then to just pick a flower from a tree. These are things that anybody can do without being Force sensitive, and they're in no way an indication of someone's midichlorian levels. In The Phantom Menace, after they already know that Anakin has a high count, the Jedi Council give him a telepathy test where he has to correctly guess what images are on Mace Windu's screen without seeing it. You know, it's the one with the cup, the speeder, and the ship. And this makes perfect sense because, you know, it's something that clearly requires a special ability to do successfully, just like you have the ability to hit that like button right now. And the third test is the only one that even comes close to what the Council did with Anakin, as it involves reaching out with the Force to connect with nature. Now maybe I could have been more accepting of these tests had this been the only one, in the same way that the Council only had one test for Anakin before reading his thoughts and feelings. I still don't see how she would have been able to figure out the level of her M-count, but at least this test would have revealed some level of Force sensitivity. That is, if it wasn't for the fact that after Omega gives up almost immediately, Ventress then says that she isn't surprised because she hasn't been given any direction on how to use the Force. So then what was the point in even testing her if she knew that she wouldn't be able to do it? She then criticizes the Bad Batch for not training her, but they didn't even know about her M-count until a couple days ago, and it's not like they'd even be able to train her anyway because they're not Jedi. So what is she even going on about? Not to mention, Ventress actually rushes the first test and ends it early, so whatever result she was going to somehow get from Omega standing on one leg is already flawed. So in the end, all 3 of these tests were basically pointless, and they offer no real insight into how high Omega's M-count actually is. But of course, that doesn't stop Ventress from telling Omega at the end of the episode that she does not have a high M-count, even though there's no way at all that she can know either way. Even if she's lying like Hunter and Crosshair suspect, it doesn't matter, she shouldn't be able to tell. Ventress also makes no sense midway through the episode when she gets into a fight with the Bad Batch, because it's only after the fight that she says that she isn't their enemy and doesn't want to fight them. So why couldn't she just say that in the beginning? She doesn't even attempt to calm them down and even does the opposite and antagonizes them into the fight. It seems to me that the writers must have just wanted to use it as an excuse for Ventress to reveal her new yellow lightsaber, but even then the fight was unnecessary because she could have just showed the clones before the fight and used the new color as proof that she's changed. It would have been the perfect de-escalation device, and it also would have been far more compelling for her character if she had it with a monologue to explain her change of allegiance. They could have even had her detail some events from Dark Disciple or Quinlan Voss, but instead we just get a fight that makes no real sense, and the opportunity for really good character development is wasted. It's similar to the fact that for some reason Ventress is discovered by Omega hiding in a cave. Why is she hiding in a cave? All she wants to do is talk to the Bad Batch to figure out why they're asking about M-counts, so why doesn't she just land at the landing bay and approach them normally? It seems to me that the writers only did this because they wanted a scary way to introduce her to Omega, even though she isn't a bad guy anymore, and this episode is supposed to be establishing that. I really don't understand how this script made it through the editing process with nobody questioning any of these things, because it doesn't stop with Ventress either. The clones also are victims to bad writing in this episode. For example, during the fight between the Bad Batch and Ventress, she gets a hold of Hunter's knife and throws it to the ground beside him. Crosshair then shoots it the second it hits the ground, and this moment I think is intended to show the audience that Crosshair has his perfect aim back, but the way that the writers have chosen to show this is just really stupid. Hunter wasn't even in any danger, the knife was always going to miss him, and if it wasn't, Crosshair decides to shoot it the second it lands anyway. So even if it did hit Hunter, Crosshair shooting it wouldn't have helped at all. But more importantly, at the angle that Crosshair shoots it from, if he had actually shot it whilst it was in midair, it would have just pushed it towards Hunter's path and put him in danger and not save him. So why didn't he just shoot the knife out of Ventress's hands instead? Imagine how much better that would have been. Crosshair would have disarmed Ventress, which would have made for a much more interesting scene. They could have made a really big deal out of Crosshair's aim coming back, and it would have reinforced to the group that he really is back on their side as he's just saved them again. I feel like this was just another massive wasted opportunity for really good character development, and instead the writers just wrote a version of this idea that just doesn't make a lot of sense. And in the next scene, the show then gives us another instance of everybody has to do what Omega says, because when they're back in the a ship after the fight, all three of them tell Omega that Ventress can't be trusted and that meeting with her is a bad idea. But all it takes is for Omega to say, "I think we should trust her," and then for some reason, even though they outvote her by 3-1, they do what she says even though she has a weak and naive argument. And then to make it worse, when Omega does meet back up with Ventress the next day, she somehow comes to the conclusion that Ventress must only want to help her and that she loves the Bad Batch simply because Ventress didn't leave the planet. But what kind of logic is that? If she intended to do something bad, she wouldn't have left the planet either. Her staying or going doesn't have any kind of indication for her motives, but this is just another case of the writers telling the audience something through a character, but not taking the time to take a step back and ask themselves if what they've written really makes any sense. Omega saying this is supposed to confirm to the audience that Ventress is 100% a good guy now, but there are far better ways that they could have communicated this. Seriously, does anybody at Lucasfilm proofread these scripts? Because it doesn't seem like they do. I think this episode to me just felt like a massive wasted opportunity because I think the core idea was pretty solid, but it was the execution that was really bad. And I don't think there was one well-written plot in this entire episode, and it just makes me wish that they didn't even bother to bring Ventress back, because if this is the quality of writing that she's going to receive going forward, then it's all going to be for nothing and they're just running the risk of ruining a fantastic character. But that's just me. What do you guys think? Let me know what you thought of the episode in the comments and whether or not you agree with me. And of course, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to this thing that I'm doing. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.